So Drew, part two, welcome back. This is awesome, dude. I really want to highlight the historical contributions that the Black community has had on this industry, right?
Yes.
And I've got 5 people that I did some research on that I didn't know about coming into this recording. But before we jump into the ones that the white guy found,
No, and also, I'll say this too. This is a problem that's everybody problem, right? Because
yeah,
some of the people that you're gonna name, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
there's a problem when you don't know, but there's an also problem when I don't know, and that's the biggest part of the problem is
yeah,
us in our own community have a lot of educating to do, and it's important that we continue to educate ourselves as well because we don't
yeah,
know, and we've been a part of systems that we learn the rest of American history, but we fail to learn these parts of American history that look like us. And so we don't
right,
even know that we have, such prolific people that have made things that we're using every single day, you know what I'm saying? That will make it easier for us to say, yo, I'm a part of that. That's in me. I can take that torch and carry it further, which I want to also point out that I read an article on the first day of Black History Month. A person tagged me to it, and I'm horrible for not having her name ready, but I appreciate you so much. But this article was in Variety, and they talked about Black Futures Month, right?
uh,
And a lot of times we obviously have Black History Month, but we should also have a month or something that coincides with that we talk about Black futures and people like Dr.
absolutely,
Nome Scott Amokpo. You know what I'm saying? Eric Timmons. We talk about Will Drury. You know what I'm saying? We talk
yep,
about Lisa Block. We talk about people that are here right now doing the exact same thing in present day that are changing and
yep,
innovating and doing all that. Because a lot of times too, when we focus on our past a lot, it's a lot of darkness in there. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
it's a lot of achievement through trials and through systemic BS. You know what I'm saying? And it's like
yep,
it's important to highlight those things, but it's also important to talk about where we're going because we don't want to get
yeah,
stuck in a mindset of you know just the past. You know what I'm saying? And I think that being able to highlight more people from our past that we don't highlight and their achievements, doing that more regularly helps us have an even brighter Black Futures Month.
dude, I love it. And here's my commitment right now. Last episode we talked about intentionality and me making this not just a February thing, right? October is an entire month that I'm dedicating to student journeys and the future of this industry.
So,
A lot of the recordings are going to come from IMTS, from the Student Summit, right? Where I'm going to talk with students there. At least one episode in the month of October will be dedicated to Black futures in manufacturing.
Let's go. Let's get it.
I'd love for you to join me
Yep.
in that conversation. Let's walk around IMTS. Let's talk to students that we talk to in schools that we're in every day. Let's get some stories, but let's do that together,
Yep.
man. I love working with you. I love collaborating with you. You and I are easy to talk. The conversation's easy. Sometimes it's a lot long-winded, a lot more long-winded than it should be, but that's usually my fault.
It's impactful. Nevertheless, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be honored, man. I'd be honored to help share those stories, and I can't think of a better platform to do it on. So
Let's do it,
Y'all
man.
heard it here
Let's
first.
do it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my commitment to my listeners, to my community, to Andrew. So let's get it. So Drew, before we dive into this list of five amazing human beings that have impacted literally from I think 1919, maybe even earlier than that, on some of these to today, tell us more about anybody that you want to talk about, or the mark that the Black community has left on the history of manufacturing in general.
Great question. So for me, I think that we don't get enough credit for what we've done, um, and
Yeah,
B, we don't give ourselves enough um, credit for the achievements that we have done, and that's for a lack of knowing and a lack of understanding. And
yeah,
unfortunately, for a long time, that lack was because of our education system. You know what I'm saying? And of, laws that didn't benefit black
yeah,
inventors and black creatives at the time. But if you think about just the nature of our industry and just being a creative person, period, necessity is the mother of invention. You know what I'm saying? So when we even go back
yeah,
to, why certain things are made to make our lives easier, who actually was the person that had the most initiative to make things to make their lives easier. And I would beg to say it was probably, some of our ancestors that were brought over here against their will. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That built this country.
absolutely.
So I think
Yeah,
recognition of actually like literally putting in the sweat equity and the labor of building our great institutions in our country. We should get some love for that. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't just
yeah,
talk about the civil rights era and all of those things. Like it goes way back before that. Even when we do learn certain things, you think about in high school when they told us that Eli Whitney made the cotton gin. Do you think
right.
do you think Eli Whitney, who owned slaves, was actually thinking about how to make their lives easier? You know what I'm saying? Just to be honest, right? Do you think he was spending his waking moments like, what machine can I make to make their lives easier? You know what I'm saying? Or
Right,
do you think it was some man that was stolen from his country or woman that was stolen from their country that probably was an engineer or whatever the equivalent of that at the time was in their
absolutely.
country, was brought
Yep,
over here. So now they're here as an engineer against their will, and they're being forced to do manual labor in the hot South of America. You know what I'm saying? Who do you think used their mind and their ingenuity to make their lives easier? But
yep,
because that slave was not a recognized person, or at one point, even after that, we were only 3/5 of a person, we weren't
right,
able to get a patent to say
right.
that this was my invention. You know what I'm saying? I came up with this idea on your plantation. Everything that I do here is yours, including me. You literally own me. You know what I'm
Own me.
saying?
Yeah,
So, when we talk about these things, we got to think about like the actual perspective of where these things actually came from and who actually, may have been the leader behind this. Even moving in that's the 17th century. But like when we
right.
fast forward, even we talk about the light bulb and Thomas Edison.
Absolutely.
We don't show no love to Lewis Latimer. You know what I'm saying? And we don't talk about how he actually is the person that made that invention work and made it be
Yeah,
able to have the commercial success that it has. Right. So
yeah,
when kids are able to say somebody looked like me, contributed to this great country in a way that they weren't forced to, you know what I'm saying?
yep,
Then it gives you a sense of pride and you actually do feel like I'm an American. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
and you dig deeper into, the values and stuff of our country. You dig deeper into your own mind and your own intellect, and it opens up, what you think you could do. So the next time
Yeah.
you're at home and you're thinking of, what could make my life easier, what I could do, this little widget that I put together to help me achieve this certain thing or that certain thing, that's a whole industry right there, right?
Yeah.
Um, we I say we, but I um I have been having groups come and I do like a trap hackathon, right? And I don't really
Okay.
talk too much about this yet, and I don't, put too many videos out, but it's exactly that. It's first educating young kids, young black kids about, the history of manufacturing and where we belong in this, and then
Yeah.
also giving them the skills and the opportunities to be the next person that makes some change. So we're doing things like making water bottle filters that go on a water bottle that can filter water for like people in Flint, right? That
Oh,
have dirty
dang.
water, right? We're doing things
Yeah.
like making smart gardens for places that are food deserts, right? And all of these things that
Wow.
we're doing with a router, a tabletop little CNC, the XS Tech from Tormach, and 3D printer. So these are things that if your
Damn.
school doesn't have access to like a Haas machine or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
now you can make these projects with these two small machines that'll help change an issue that you guys are afflicted by. So,
That's awesome.
absolutely. But let's dig into some of these people. Who you got first on your list?
First up, I got Alice Parker. And I am going to preface as I was researching, and for those longtime listeners, you'll know that I do zero work for these episodes. So this is the first episode I actually had to do a little work on and do some research. Um, there's not a whole lot of pre 1900, to your point, Andrew. Uh, uh, Credit given to the black community. So I know that there are a ton out there, but we're really going to focus 1900 to today.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with Alice Parker. She was a woman inventor from New Jersey who in 1919 patented a central heating system using natural gas. Unlike previous systems that used wood or coal, Parker's design featured multiple burners with individual controls, allowing for better temperature regulation and efficiency. This innovation was a significant precursor to the modern heating systems we rely on today, making our homes and workplaces more comfortable and safer. So, considering all the I mean, we now have automation when it comes to heating and cooling our homes, right? So you go back to just 100 years, 105 years, and you've got this black woman in New Jersey
So
who created this
she's
system.
the mother of HVAC. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And again, she's double afflicted. She's a black woman in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
you know, going back to our conversation on part 1, when we understand things outside of ourselves and then we look at the full scope of the conditions that people are going to school under, trying to get a career under, trying to do these different things, black Americans are unique in a way that we've done all of these things in spite of systems that were built against us. Like
Yeah.
literally, we can't even say that they didn't benefit us. When the
Right.
Constitution says that you're not a person or you're 3/5 of a person, that means you can't
Yeah.
own land. You don't have housing security. You can't vote. You don't have
Right.
political security. You don't have a legislative system that's going to help with your needs. You can't go to school past a certain grade. And in spite of, these people still rise and we still rise, right? So just the fact
Absolutely.
that, there was a Alice or there was a Lewis or there was, some of these other people that we're going to go across is a testament to the resiliency of these historically resilient populations as well, right? And,
Absolutely.
and think of the pride of a kid that can be told these stories in that context. You know,
Oh, dude.
what can you do now when you don't have to worry about a slave catcher? You know what I'm saying? You don't have
Right.
to worry about, like, you can go to a patent office now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do
Yeah.
these things, and knowing that they were able to do it through that is beyond encouraging and inspiring, not just for myself, but for all of a community.
Yeah. So next, I've got a chemist. You know who Lloyd Hall
I
is?
don't. Get me hip to Lloyd Hall.
He was a chemist whose work in food preservation revolutionized meatpacking.
Okay.
So picture pre 1930s, right? Pre the refrigerator in every home.
Mm-hmm.
You literally just set meat outside to dry on racks all day long. So in the 1930s, Lloyd developed flash dried salt crystals that combine the preservative effects of sodium chloride with sodium nitrate and nitrate itself, significantly improving the taste and safety of preserved foods.
So that was in 1930.
1930.
Okay, so this might be on your list if I steal your thunder, but I was putting my list together too. You know what I'm saying? And I did a lot of learning
Yeah.
as well last night. And in 1935, which is, he was probably the predecessor for this, Frederick McKinley Jones, a black inventor,
Okay.
invented the refrigerated food truck, right? So our everyday comforts, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
Your
dude.
home, the food that you eat, getting to you. He built a refrigeration system that was able to be mobile to make sure that the transportation of perishable goods was able for long distance shipping. So if you got that good Nebraska Omaha beef and you want a nice steak in New York, now these things are possible. But that's another thing. Being able to stack one thing on top of the other, innovation begets more innovation. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so Lloyd Hall, uh, he also pioneered the use of antioxidants to prevent spoilage in bakery products.
Wow.
So he's part of the reason that bread was able to be packaged, pies were able to be packaged, but nowadays the preservatives that are used to keep these things fresh are literally toxic.
Yeah,
He used antioxidants to make that happen.
much safer.
Much safer.
And then I always I always go back to the fact that enslaved people were discouraged, obviously violently, from being able to learn to read and write. Number one. Number two, they were enslaved from countries all over Africa with different tongues and different dialects. So they
Yeah,
weren't even able to have some kind of system that where they were able to, teach each other in for a long time. And although this was a 400-year period, you know what I'm saying, it was a huge significant time where other counterparts were able to learn, go to school, go to higher education. There were colleges set up, and none of these inventions were made. But it took these people that had been afflicted, that weren't able to read or write, that didn't have a higher education system set up for themselves, or if they did around that time, they were fledgling, just brand new universities that didn't have the same resources as the Yales and the Harvards and the historical places of this time. And they're still, in spite of, and this is going to be the theme,
absolutely. In spite of, that'll be the title of this episode. In spite
in
of.
spite of, um, being able to hear these stories also, because like I said, some of these names I don't know, you know what I'm saying, which is also it's a huge problem. But being able to hear these things and put them into perspective with my grown mind is
Absolutely.
is making me feel like I gotta do more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was talking with two gentlemen. One of them um, is Mr. Lonnie Jones. You know what I'm saying? Lonnie Johnson,
Okay.
excuse me. And Lonnie Johnson invented the Super Soaker. He worked with NASA, and he used the technology that he was working on in NASA to make the Super Soaker, and then later on took his Super Soaker design and made the Nerf guns, right? And there's probably not a household in America that doesn't have multiple Nerf guns,
Oh,
Super Soakers, video games, like all of these different things. And nobody really like thinks about a black man from NASA, aerospace aeronautics engineer, invented these things, right?
yep.
And I got to talk to him um, this past weekend, which was surreal. But even talking to him, he understands that we've got a duty to not only educate ourselves about these things, but be seen and be outside and be somewhere, like I said earlier, where we can touch, and he can be a resource for me and school me on things that I
Whew.
didn't know. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
even Lonnie. So Lonnie, I think, made his designs in the like late 80s, probably.
Okay.
Um maybe before that, maybe early 80s, but it was in the 80s. And he didn't get even paid proper royalties. He had to fight until 2013, and then he was finally recognized. And it's like,
Fuck.
how many American inventors are that happening to? Probably not many, unless they come from this community. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Yep.
it's a travesty that even as recent as then, our IP and our contributions aren't being
Absolutely.
recognized. But let's hop back into the list.
All right. So number three is a person who made conversations like this possible in the world of electronics.
Okay.
So Otis Boykin.
Okay.
Otis Boykin was an electronic genius, not electric genius. Well, he might have been electric. I didn't know him, but he was an electronic genius. And he had a huge impact on the world of electronics. He improved the electrical resistor technology and patented it in 1959 and it made electronic devices like TVs, radios, computers more affordable.
Wow.
So before then, right, your computers took up entire rooms and still they were still large in 1959. They didn't start getting smaller until the 80s,
Yeah.
right? Late 70s, early 80s. But he made computing technology more affordable
And accessible.
and
That's
accessible.
crazy. So I want to go back a little bit, because I think about what these technologies were able to help us do as Americans. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people think about like, oh, black owned products or black produced things are only for black people, right? And I'm a testament to even my tour. It's a black owned tour. I'm a black person that's headlining it, but I'm reaching young white kids, boys and girls, Hispanic
Absolutely.
kids, Indian kids, Asian kids, black kids. So, black owned or invented or innovated doesn't mean that they only did it for the culture. They did it for all of us. So,
Yep.
that invention most likely helped a lot in wars that we were fighting shortly after the 50s. Vietnam, you know what I'm saying? So let's rewind a little bit. Remember World War One? When we
Yeah.
were in World War One, there was a problem called mustard gas, and
Yeah.
people were using gas as a part of war for the first time. And there was no, because it was so new, there was nothing to fight against it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it
No safety
and it
precautions.
was kicking our butt until Garrett Morgan in 1912 invented the gas mask, which helped us do a lot of that trench warfare where things were fought really closely in these gassy situations, which gave us and our allies the advantage, right? So when we
Dude.
think about stuff like that, think about our forefathers that were saved because of some of these black inventions. Think about if we didn't have that advantage to get through those mustard gas, that was their advantage. If we didn't turn the tables like that, what kind of world will we be living in right now? Garrett Morgan
Yeah.
also non-war facing, but he also invented the traffic signal, which
No way.
tell me that, what I'm saying, we don't use that every day. And that doesn't revolutionize the way that we move and the way that we're mobile.
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to parlay off of that Garrett Morgan with Otis Boykins. He, created that electrical resistor. His innovations played a crucial role in creating the first workable implantable pacemaker.
Wow. Okay.
So, and you want to talk about people inventing things that impact lives, right? How many lives has that impacted?
And still.
And still to this day, implantable pacemakers. But if you look back at history, it wasn't the black community, and this is what I found in doing this research. It wasn't the black community that was dying of heart attacks back then.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was not who that device was created to save.
Come on, man. Say it.
So how selfless of a man like Otis to create a technology in a world in 1959 that was not kind
At all, right? And
at all.
and this is not an inventor, but this is also a black trailblazer. But even at that time, think about what else was going on. You know who Ruby Bridges is?
Right.
So she was a little black girl just trying to go to school, and they had to bring the National Guard just for this little black girl to sit in a class at a white school. And people were that demonic and that horrible that they wanted to wish death. They wanted to physically harm this little child for wanting a better education at a school that could serve her better, to the point where she had to have armed National Guard walk her to school and class to class. And we're told with the media that, like, oh, black people are violent and we're, all these different things. And history doesn't really support that. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
over time, if these are our stories and, things aren't really changing at the pace that they should, and we're not getting recognition for the contributions that we're making as great citizens of America, not just Black America, but as you pointed out, all of America, then of course there's going to be some frustration. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And of
yeah.
course there's going to be some pent up emotions, that might come across as anger. You know what I'm saying? But again, we had to do all of these things in spite of the laws, the culture at the time, all of these things being against and working against people like this, and they're still saying, let me help you, let me use what I do know
Exactly.
and what I do have to help you, fellow American. Another
And that's why these conversations are so important, right?
Yes.
Because and Drew, just a little quick divergent here. I was watching an episode or a clip on social media of Tom Hanks from 2020, and he's talking about his experience with the Tulsa massacre,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And how disgusted he was that at 64 years old, he was just learning about the massacre, right?
Yes.
And I look back on my own experience when I went to school, when I was in grade school, when I was in middle school, when I was in high school. I learned about it, but it was called something dramatically different
Yeah.
when I learned about it. And it was phrased to make it look like a violent act from the black community. They called it, when I was growing up, it was called the Tulsa Race Riot.
Yeah. Yep. And the way that's why. So go ahead.
I was 40 something years old, man, before I heard something about it.
Yep.
And actually learned about It was a massacre. It
Yes.
wasn't a race riot, man.
Literally government planes dropping bombs on a city that we don't even do sometimes to people that we're actually at war with. We don't drop
Right.
bombs on communities. There's strategic military locations that we might drop bombs on a warehouse that's making, whatever,
Right.
but we're not dropping them on communities. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
that's a war crime. But when these things happen to our community, not only is it brushed under the rug, but then it's rewritten and retold in a way that we were the aggressors. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's also why it's important that not only are we educating ourselves, but we're making sure the education that we're getting or giving is coming from the people that were in the community so that we
Right.
understand really how it went, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times lately, and I'm not a political dude, but a lot of times right now with education, Missouri was one of them where they're removing Black history books and like books about Black
Yeah.
people and Black situations out of the curriculum and out of their libraries. And it's like, their reasoning is, I don't want my white kids to feel bad or feel whatever because of what their ancestors did. And it's like, think about the young Black child, the grown Black person who every day sat in a class and didn't get to hear the stories of their triumphant people and only have to hear about great white people all the time,
Yep.
because that's what the rest of the curriculum is. We learn only about our forefathers and all of those different things, but we don't learn about the Black ones. So how do you think the Black kids have felt since the history of education? They've
Yeah.
always been to feel that their story starts at slavery and now we're here. We were slaves,
Right.
we were beat, we were, all of these horrible things, and now we're here. And we don't get to hear about the significant contributions that we made to everyday life, not just, and I love Martin, I love Malcolm. It's not just we have a dream. It is not just
Right.
by any means. You know what I'm saying? We're inventing things. We're helping society go forward. We're being innovative. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and when we do build, we get our cities bombed and then we still build back and we still
Right.
continue to rise in spite of. So, having that narrative will make you feel better as, like I said, an American. You know what I'm saying? Not just as a Black American, but as an actual American. And then we grow up saying,
Yes.
yo, my people were done bad. Your people might have been purveyors of that, but also there's great white people that have done things to help uplift Black people or to help us in our
Absolutely. Yeah.
struggle, in our, you know what I'm saying? So saying like, yo, my great great grandfather may have been a part of this and I denounce it completely, and I denounce it so much that I'm going to be intentional about telling these stories, and I'm going to help,
Yep.
be a person that tells the story the right way, and not just to Black people. If I'm not, I'm going to show y'all love, but if I'm in a room full of people that look like me, I'm going to help educate them as well, because the change isn't going to come from us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The change, we've been telling y'all all day, like, forever. Slavery was bad. We, redlining was bad. Like, all these things are bad. It's afflicting us. It's
Right.
affecting our neighborhoods.
Jim Crow laws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. And it until y'all who are in power can say, you know what, let's do something about it. Do it. There's nothing that we'll just be screaming on deaf ears. We know. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We lived it.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I really want to, before we go through the last two here, I really want to touch on something that you said in there, Drew. We've got to consider the source, right?
Yes.
So when we're telling these stories, uh, so one thing I'm doing this month in my intentionality is I'm reading the biography of Jim Brown by Dubois.
Let's
Right?
go.
It's an amazingly powerful story, right? But I had to put aside the things that I learned about John Brown from the history books that I read in high school,
Yes.
college, and middle school, right? To be open to Dubois' storytelling of John Brown's life,
Yes.
right? Because that's a source. If I'm listening to somebody else. I'm not capturing the story of John Brown,
In the
right?
real,
I'm
yes, yes,
in a real way, right? So I think, and I was very intentional in the sources that I got these people's stories from, right?
yes,
I'm not going to certain publications and just taking their advice for it. I was very intentional. So you have to go through and I think that, we, the mainstream media, the media in general, the Hollywood, whatever, they portray the black and brown community as athletes,
yep,
as rappers, right?
yep,
Those are the people to aspire to. We had one movie that Hidden Figures,
yeah,
right? It,
yep,
it really did a great job of focusing on the STEM, the women in STEM that are
yes,
from that black and brown community.
yes.
But then you dig a little deeper, and was it written by a black person?
Right.
Was it right?
And did we tell the story the way it happened, or did we tell the story that's gonna appease other
This
people?
guy,
Yeah, exactly. And the fact of the matter is, why is there only one movie like that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
where are the rest? There's tons of these stories that we could tell, and we could tell them in a
Yes.
good way, and we should be telling these stories. I want to rewind because you were talking about the book and historic figures, and I want to put this on your radar if you haven't read it.
Yeah.
But Up from Slavery from Booker T. Washington. This is one of my
Okay.
favorite books. I read it when I was locked up. It inspired me to do more. And the reason I'm adding him into this conversation isn't necessarily because of inventions or anything like that, but he started vocational schools out of slavery for black people, one of which became the Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University right now,
Yeah.
right? And his main thing, Booker T. Washington's biggest thing was that as black people, now we're entering into this age where we're able to educate ourselves, right? So not only educating yourselves, Dubois, who you just referenced, was his counterpart. And Dubois was more of, let's become writers and doctors and lawyers and like let's really get into this intellectualism because we're able to, right?
Right.
So Booker T. Washington said, yes, all of that is great. But at the same time, because of where we are, we need a solid foundation. So while you go to
Yeah.
college, you should be learning a trade at the same time. And that's where Tuskegee Institute came from, one of the first black colleges ever. And what they did was you learned a trade while you got your degree, right? And I think that in pushing that message, especially at that time, which I think needs to come back, having a hands-on skill set and having a skill set and a foundation based in the trades, and then using that to fuel whatever other thing you'd like to do or what your passion is a great recipe for home ownership, for having better
Yes.
schools, for always having something that you can pay bills with when things like
Yes.
AI come and take a lot of these white collar jobs. You know what I'm saying? So um,
Yeah.
I just wanted to
No, I love
recognize
that.
him and say that the messages that he has still rings true today.
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's get into it. Now we're getting a little bit closer in the timeline of manufacturing. We're going to talk about welding superstar
Okay.
Ernest Levert.
Okay.
Uh, he had a significant impact on aerospace manufacturing.
All right. Get me hip.
So Levert, he had specialties in robotics, laser beam, and electron beam welding,
Wow.
and has contributed to advancements in construction and maintenance of crucial aerospace components,
Wow.
including the International Space Station.
Come on, man.
His work on photovoltaic radiators and the development of elbow tubing for coolant gases demonstrates the critical role of welding in ensuring the safety and functionality of space exploration equipment. As a senior staff manufacturing engineer at Lockheed Martin,
Mm,
Levert led a team that welded 284 missiles,
mm.
showcasing the importance of precision and innovation in defense manufacturing. what does that legacy teach us about the importance of these specialized skills,
Right,
man?
right. And building on that, as you're reading about all of these things he's doing, in my mind, I'm thinking of my friend Dr. Nome Scott, right?
Right?
And Dr. Nome is, it seems like, carrying on that legacy, if he know whether he knows it or not, right? So
Right.
with that Black history, that's what I'm talking about, that juxtaposition. Black history helps make Black futures, and Dr. Scott with
Yeah.
hyphen innovations is, he actually invented a metal, an alloy that is 8 times stronger, lighter, and more heat resistant than Inconel. And
What?
yes, and made the process to 3D print it as well. So
What?
yes, so with this technology, he also made a spray-on component that you put on turbine engines that reduces vibration in the engines, so it makes them more effective and more efficient. So this is a Black man out of Ohio, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And he's currently developing these things for the Department of Defense and for these places now. So in the light and in the legacy, we're continuing to carry that torch and do these things, and it's like we're still representing these spaces. We should be talking about it, and I'm glad that we're doing it right now on this platform. Can I do one?
Absolutely. Jump in anytime, my man.
Okay, so what year was that one?
He's currently alive.
Dope.
Yeah, I don't have what year, but that, I mean, that is in the last 20
That's
years.
fire. That's fire. So I'm gonna rewind a little bit to the 60s,
All right.
and we're gonna go back to um a Black woman um
Okay.
inventor, and Marie Van Brittan Brown. This is a person, last year for Black History Month, every Friday I was highlighting
Yeah.
a person that is making Black history now in our industry, or has made Black history in the past. And Marie Marie Van Brittan Brown was actually a nurse, and she invented what we know now as ADT and Ring, right? So the first home security system that had the video components and the audio components to be able to speak. So she's credited with building CCTV surveillance, and her system was the first one that had camera, peephole, and a monitor connected two-way microphone, so homeowners could check out their properties remotely. And
Wow.
that invention is still, protecting homes and houses and people and families, no matter what they look like today.
Wow. Wow.
Pretty
That's
dope.
amazing. And and again, right? And next year, because you and I are going to make this an annual thing now,
Let's
man.
get it.
Next year when we do this, I now have to go that extra step and be even more intentional about looking for Black women contributions,
Yes.
right? Because uh, as I was doing my research, right, 4 out of the 5 that I'm bringing to the table are Black men,
Yep.
strong Black men,
Yep.
right? But Black women have brought a lot of innovation as well. So
I'm gonna say this.
just a mental note.
Yes.
I even more intentional, man.
And I'm gonna say this for Black History Month, and I might catch some flack for it from my community and other communities, but it needs to be said. Black women are the most disrespected group in the world. You know what I'm saying? And not just by white or other people. Black men in our music, in our the way we speak a lot in the culture. Um, Black women are the most disrespected. So, I've made it a mission of mine to, when I'm able to, make space for a Black woman or big up a Black woman. I try to go out of my way to make sure that I can do it. And I appreciate you doing the same because, like I
I
said,
love it.
they are in a class of their own when it comes to, you know, Black problems and woman problems, compound those things. And when, like I said, we were conditioned through music and through, things before that to disrespect our women as well. So on Black
Yeah.
History Month, I'd be remiss to say, as a black son, black husband, black brother, black grandson, black nephew, shout out to black women. I see you,
Yeah.
and thank you for being so resilient.
Absolutely. And uh, the resilience of women in general
Yes.
is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
But you're absolutely right, and uh, I think it's per- perpetrated a lot by a lot of different groups. I think that people who look like me sometimes fetishize,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because we how media, how Hollywood does portray black
I
women
mean, and
in
yeah,
general.
and if we could get real, I mean, let's be honest. Go back to slavery days again. You know what I'm saying? Black men
Yep.
and black women were ripped from each other, so there weren't families. Then they were forced to
Yep.
only breed with each other to make. So there's no love there. There's just it's
Yep.
you're fetishized, you're sexualized, right? And
Yep.
we've got a whole race of Thomas Jefferson had like 13 black kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So literally for a long time that was what they were used for, and then we
Yeah.
carry that into entertainment, you know what I'm saying? And, if we look at the top, even black female rappers today, they wear the least amount of clothes, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
we're
Yeah.
when we turn on TV, a lot of times black women are shown in the light of, over hypersexualized, you know what I'm saying? And it's something that a lot of things are subconsciously ingraining into our mind. But,
Yep.
you opened this series, I believe, with a black woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Lisa Black is a
Absolutely.
strong black woman that is in this industry that is, making waves. She's like C-suite level. You know what I'm saying? There's so many black women that have, again, in spite of risen, you know what I'm saying, that, they deserve their pat on the back and a whole lot more than that.
And the black futures for them, I hope, are bright,
Amen.
right? And their daughters and their granddaughters. That's what I can do. What I can contribute is recognize the history, recognize the past, or the current state, um, but then create space for the future,
Yes,
right?
and
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 and uh, and thank you for doing your part. I think we're doing our part right now. We're doing a little bit of what we could do, but I want to put out a real word to everybody that may not feel the same way as you. If you look at America, things are changing. Your white son or your white
yeah,
daughter might bring home, you know what I'm saying, a significant other that looks like me, and now all of a sudden you got black grandbabies. So if you weren't working
yep.
on making the world better, you don't want to start right then. You know what I'm saying? So you know, get a
That's a rough starting point,
yeah,
right?
you
I
know what
mean,
I'm saying?
that's a rough moment to have to start looking
Absolutely.
that direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, if you just keep it on the back of your mind that these are my neighbors, these are my friends, these are my kids' friends, you know what I'm saying? And the
yeah,
world is changing. Just do it for everybody. But I think start with black women.
yep. All right, so I got one more, man, and this one is it blew my mind, right?
Okay.
And it blew my mind for the same reason. We're talking about the cotton gin at the beginning of this
Yeah.
episode, right? Guaranteed that wasn't his, right? So uh, let's talk about Mark Dean.
Okay.
And Mark Dean holds 3 of IBM's original 9 patents
Wow.
and played the primary role in the development of the color PC monitor,
No way.
the industry standard architecture system bus, and the first gigahertz chip.
No way. Which, all of which we're using as we speak in one way or the other. or
even the listeners or the watchers.
right
I mean,
now.
they're not consuming this content without any of those three things right now.
Yes, yeah. I see a lot of
Wow.
stuff on the interwebs lately. That is a really dope campaign. Think of machinists as different people who are doing it, and
Yeah.
a lot of them have like the videos where they're like sitting somewhere and stuff that machinists made starts disappearing and they're by themselves. I think my dude Trent did one of the best ones, and uh, Paul Van Meter's doing really good with that as well.
Yeah.
But I say also thank a black inventor. You know what I'm saying? Thank a black innovator. You know what I'm saying? Because all of the
Yes.
things that we touched on today, which we didn't even get to, the dude that invented the dryer, the dude that invented
Oh,
infrared temperature scanning devices. We didn't get to we even scratch the surface of who's all out
no.
there. But just
Yeah.
have in your mind that, you have a black inventor, a black innovator, especially this month, who's an American just like you, that
Yeah.
you're living your life that you're living comfortably, probably because of what they brought to the table and what was done as a result of those things. So also have in your mind that there are more out here that are waiting to be enabled, that are waiting to have that light switch turned on. And without these black inventors and these black innovators that have been here, there won't be the ones that are coming, right? And we wouldn't have what we have today without them. So imagine how much better our world is going to be when we're intentional and we're going out and we're helping build these bridges to the next generation of black futures.
Well, shit, man. Mic drop. That episode's over, everybody.
you know, hey,
That was awesome.
I have the tendency to do that sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. All right. Well, with that, everybody, I'm going to say that's a wrap on today's electrifying journey.
No. Before we go,
You got one more? All right, let's go.
I just want to thank you for doing this. You know what I'm saying? And this is the first of many, like you said. But again, This is how change is made. And you have, put your foot and your feet on the road and you're walking them time after time again. And
Thank
I'm
you.
honored that we were able to have this dope conversation. I'm honored that we just so happened to record it and that it's going to live outside of just our computers. I'm honored to be benefiting off of these black inventors and the things that they made with you. You know what I'm saying? And I am grateful that you are recognizing these things and you're recognizing that they're important. So thank you for putting this together. I had a great time with you today. I hope everybody checks out both of these episodes, and I hope y'all keep beating down Jim's door for more.
Dude, thank you so much. Thank you for the recognition. And I appreciate your friendship, man. Like,
no doubt.
It takes a long time for adult men to create friendships, right? But Drew, you were somebody. The very first time I met you, I knew we were going to be friends.
My man.
Right? It was just, well, I fucked up that first night. I didn't have a hotel room for you that first night in Wichita 2 years ago. So I messed up, right? But I will say the first time you and I just chatted, the friendship was blossoming, right? And I really appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your mentorship and guidance as I navigate unlearning some of the things that I learned and relearning other things. Means a lot to me, man. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, my boy. And we're going to keep this thing rolling.
Let's keep going, buddy. So now, everybody, that's a wrap on today's electrifying journey through the contributions of Black innovators in the world of manufacturing. We've uncovered the stories of pioneers who not only shaped the industry, but have also inspired generations to come, the future of, right? A heartfelt thank you to our guest, friend, contributor, collaborator, Andrew Crowe, for diving deep into the rich history with us. I'm very grateful for the support of our show sponsor, Spironi, whose commitment to precision and excellence mirrors the groundbreaking work of the figures that we've discussed today. let's not forget the fuel that keeps us going as well. Shop floor coffee. Use the promo code SkillUpArizona. Get your hands on a brew that's as robust as and reliable as the innovations we've celebrated in this episode. But also, guys, not a dollar of shop floor coffee comes to the podcast. Every bit of whatever partnership dollars come in through this go to fund Skill Up Arizona apprenticeship scholarship foundation. You're not supporting me. I don't make money by doing this, guys. I make money doing my other stuff, my consulting. Shop floor coffee is helping fund the future of manufacturing, helping go after underrepresented communities in the world of manufacturing. So buy your coffee, use Skill Up AZ as your promo code.
And this month, if you buying that coffee, drink it black.
Hey man, I put a little bit of sugar. I like my coffee black and sweet.
There you go. There you go.
Just like you.
Yeah.
Just like you.
Thank you.
If this episode sparked your curiosity or lit a fire in your heart, share the flame with your friends and colleagues. Your support helps us illuminate the unsung heroes in the manufacturing world and keeps the gears of this podcast turning. While you're at it, drop us a rating and a review. We're eager to hear your thoughts and feedback. And every time you rate and review the show, it rockets us up the charts. More people find us. So make sure that you're doing that. For more episodes and deeper dive into the world of culture and manufacturing, visit us at manufacturingculturepodcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, keep forging paths, breaking molds, and manufacturing greatness. Have a great day. Keep making things.